using one of IOD Iron Orchid Designs molds that are generally supposed to be used for all kinds of plaster and other type of decorations. Anyway, what you want to do for these molds, because they are huge, you want to make sure that your clay is all in one piece. Do not try to roll it, do not try to cram it, do not try to do anything else. Here I have taken, that's about 2-ounce pack worth of black clay, and I ran it through the pasta machine on the thickest setting, and then I tripled it pretty much. Of course, not all of it will be necessary, but I needed this much so I can do what I needed. Then I placed the mold face down on it so I can leave kind of a print so I know how to cut it, because it would be way too hard to try and manipulate such a huge chunk of clay. Of course, you don't need to have this much clay, but that was easier for me because of my hands, right? So after you cut your clay, then press it down in the mold as hard as you can. Make sure that all of it is in the mold, that you have no air bubbles, no nothing. The problem again is that these are humongous molds, absolutely humongous. And see, I had there a tiny bit, but that should be fine for just that little corner. And because they are so big, it is a little bit harder to manipulate the clay to get there in one piece. Now, to explain, this is part of my thinking outside the box campaign, where you try and use all kinds of things that you wouldn't even think and were not used for, are not normally used for making whatever you're making. It doesn't have to be jewelry, it can be anything else, you know, kind of turn the whole idea upside down. After you have placed your clay in the mold, use a wax paper and the roller to press everything down. Now watch the wax paper, see how there are little whitey spots underneath? That means that the clay is not perfectly straight on the wax paper, and you just need to keep pressing and pressing until you see that all the black clay is flat under the wax paper. Then use your rigid blade to trim, to shave exactly like you would do in a regular mold with the excess clay on a cabochon, and you'll see that you get an absolutely gorgeous print. You might want to level the back of what will be your piece. Yes, we will make the necklace out of this. Amazing, isn't it? And I have one more to show you in a future tutorial that I hope you'll like as much as this one. Anyway, try to pretty much even out and smooth the back. It will be pretty hard. I only had these itty bitty cosmetic sponges. I really need to look for a big one if I want to do more of these. But anyway, once you're done with that, just simply take it out of the mold. You will see that these molds are absolutely fabulous. They do not need any kind of release or anything. They come out right away without the slightest problem. And get your baking blank. You know that I use this thing that I found at Goodwill, but you can use whatever bowl you normally use for your necklaces, and place your necklace on the baking blank. Make sure that it is very well stuck to the baking blank. Shape it so it would fit comfortably around the neck, because this will be a pretty much almost like a choker. And trim very carefully. If you didn't shave finely, you might still have a little bit of lip there at the edges, and this you will not be able to take away with the sanding paper. I mean, you could, but it would take forever to do that. So just use your X-Acto knife and check all the edges, and also, as I said, check to make sure that everything is very flat and stuck to the baking blank. And now let's start and place some waxes on it. And I'm going to use the ArtAlchemy waxes. First I'm going to use the Mystic Turquoise and the Amethyst Magic from the Antique Brilliance line. And you see, I'm putting the Mystic Turquoise in the middle of the necklace, and I'm going about halfway towards the two sides. And then on the sides, towards the end of the necklace, I will be using the Amethyst Magic. And then in the middle, I will blend the two waxes, and they blend beautifully, absolutely beautifully. So the trick is bring the violet over the blue a little bit, and then you'll have to take again the blue and bring it a little bit over the violet, and you will obtain that beautiful blend and oil slick like effect. And it is not hard at all. You see how I'm bringing the violet over the blue, and then I will take again the blue and bring it over the violet one more time to get a very, very refined gradient there. Then what I will be using after this, but this will not stay forever. See how I'm taking the blue and bringing it over the violet again to create a perfect blend. I'm going to use also the Opal Magic waxes, but just to give a little bit of extra color, because after everything is baked I will cover them up again with the Mystic Turquoise and with the Amethyst Magic. Remember that these waxes are can be fairly transparent, and they kind of change depending on the background. So I'm going to place a little bit of Turquoise Satin right in the very middle of the necklace, in the very, like almost in a line. And then I will be placing the blue velvet at the very end. Oh, sorry, not at the very end, right where I did the mix, because the blue velvet is pretty much a blue with a reflex violet. The Opal Magic, they are interference colors, so you will get this way, you will get at the very end, that's what I wanted to say, at the very end you get violet, then you get that blue with violet iridescence, then you get blue, then you get blue with the mildly mother of pearl iridescence. Excuse me. And then we are going to embellish this with rhinestones. Now I'm not going to leave the entirety of me putting rhinestones on this necklace, because it took close to an hour. Yes, working with rhinestones is a very time-consuming thing, but it is, in my opinion, it is totally worth it. I'm using 3 different sizes, and that is the 1 millimeter, 2 millimeter, and 2.5 millimeter, or I think 1.5 millimeter and 2 millimeter, something like that. Anyway, where you want to place your rhinestones, it's pretty much along the curves of those flourishes, and try to combine a little bit the larger ones and the smaller ones. I also used in the very middle, and just for some extra very subtle bling, if you want, some black rhinestones. And those black rhinestones are actually not faceted, they are like miniature, super miniature cabochons, but they are black. They have practically no sparkle. They do have shininess, but no, they don't have sparkle. And you can use for this both tweezers, or you can use those specialized pens for rhinestones. Before I had these, it was a pain to place rhinestone. Anyway, what I wanted to tell you is you must absolutely, for this kind of thing, you must absolutely use the hot fix rhinestones, the ones that get sealed, that get glued to the backdrop when they get baked, and you recognize which of them they are. They have on the back, they have like a dark gray type of back. It almost looks like a non-shiny hematite. I don't know how to describe it otherwise, but those are the hot fix. And what I'm using here, the very large ones and the small ones, are the AB, the Aurora Borealis ones, the ones that have all kinds of colors in the sparkle. And then I'm also using the middle-sized ones, or the plain clear. And just see how I'm kind of putting them along the flourishes of the mold, and just to create the illusion of lace, of embroidered lace embroidered with gemstones. And I know this is a little bit more complicated, but it's complicated not so much in the level of expertise as it is in the level of time consuming. That is pretty much it, because placing the rhinestones, in the beginning you might have a little bit of issue, but after you've placed about 10 of them and you cast the heck out of them because they keep falling and rolling, and always rolling with the face down, Murphy's laws, huh? You will pretty much get the hang of it, and you'll be able to use them. But I definitely recommend that you get yourself either the tweezers or the special pen. And these pens are used for rhinestones, especially for fingernail art. Anyway, the idea was about this necklace. Remember that I keep telling you that among the trends in the fall 2018, winter 2018-2019, one of the trends is the Victorian jewelry. And also the Gothic is making a comeback. And I thought, when I first saw this mold, in my mind was, I guess, this necklace. It was the shape of, I was thinking of rich lace with embroidery on it. And this is pretty much what I'm trying. If you want, it is a faux, but it is not a faux. And I will soon launch a challenge that would be the faux challenge, and I will explain it whenever I will be launching it. And you'll see, it's a little bit of a surprise, and I hope that other artists will join me, because I think it's a lot of fun. But you see how I am practically, as I said, I am following the designs of the mold, of the flourish itself. I'm not completely going to cover all the nooks and crannies in rhinestones, and here you can use your discretion. You place as many rhinestones as you want. Hotfix rhinestones are not that expensive. You can get hundreds of them for just a few dollars on eBay. Most of the time I buy mine on eBay, honestly. That's why I will give you some links in the video description, but to be very honest, I will just tell you, go on eBay and check. Just be very careful when you buy them on eBay, because the cheapest ones are the ones from China. Of course, you'll have to wait for a bit to get them, but be very aware of the fact that those Chinese sellers do not have a very good grasp of size. So they might be advertising that they are selling 3mm rhinestones, and you'll be receiving 1mm rhinestones. It happened to me 3 times. And yeah, it was nice to pay only $2 for like 400 or 500 rhinestones, but not when you get 1mm ones instead of 3mm ones, because you can see how tiny they are. And at the time I did not have tweezers or the pens, so they were in the drawer for quite a few months before I was able to even use them. So yeah, be very careful if you order them on eBay. And there also, you can find them on with great prices on Amazon. Honestly, right now I'm not buying them on eBay anymore. I prefer to buy them on Amazon, because if something happens, you know, from Trish, all this kind of stuff, I'm buying either from Trish on PolyClay Play or from Amazon, just because of all the mix-ups and mess-ups about the size, about the colors. At least with Trish and with Amazon, I know that I will not get messed up. It's very, very important to not manipulate the necklace while it is still warm, because of the depth of the mold. There are 2 spots on the necklace where they might be prone to break if you manipulate them and they bend while they are still warm. So until they are fully cold, do not manipulate them. After that, you can do whatever you want with them, but let them cool off on the baking blank until after you put on the backing and everything, it will be just fine. So once we did that, I'm going to use these jumbo jump rings that are gunmetal. I thought I don't really have anything black. I have gunmetal, so that's what I'm going to use. And first of all, I'm going to place a backing, and I got some black clay again on my pasta machine on a more finish. It's a little bit past medium. On my Atlas it's a 6, so I would say it's like the 4th, depending on how many settings you have on your pasta machine. It would be the 3rd or the 4th thinnest setting, counting backwards. So pretty much between the medium and the thinnest, that's what you want to get, because you don't want your necklace to be super heavy. Then of course douse it really good with Bake and Bond. Yeah, you can use liquid clay. It's not like you have something to be super hard to adhere there. And then gently manipulate your sheet of clay to cover everything, and very careful. You know that I think that I'm saying that at least 3 or 4 times in each tutorial that involves putting raw clay on baked clay. Careful about it. Don't trap air pockets. Don't trap air bubbles. I'm obsessed with air bubbles, but yeah, they are really irritating when it happens. So wipe really nice with your fingers. And I'm going to say again, I've said it a few times, because people always ask me, how do you do, why it's barely any fingerprint? Whenever we watch your tutorials, there's barely any fingerprint there. Before I say that, see how I gently rub the paintbrush handle on the edge, and that will pretty much break the raw clay from the baked clay. Anyway, let me get back to the fingerprints. What I actually do about once a week, I file my fingerprints. Yes, not to the point of getting in trouble with the police if I ever need fingerprinting, but enough to make a difference when it comes to leaving fingerprints on the clay. And it doesn't take long. I mean, if you get one of those diamond nail files, you're fine. Then I'm going to use Donna Cato's largest texture sponge to put some texture on that backing. And only after I do that, and again check very well your edges, and after I do that, I'm going to place the two jump rings that will act as I don't know, bails. Do you call them bails if they are not for a pendant? I don't know. Remember, I'm not a native English speaker, so I still have issues with some of the terms in English. So yeah, once again, check very well your edges. They need to be very nice and very smooth, because I mean, yes, you can sand, but do you see all those little shapes and nooks and crannies and valleys and mountains? Now try to imagine how hard it is to conform to all those curves and little things with the sanding paper. It would be practically impossible. I mean, you'd probably need a little round file that would be 2 millimeters thick to be able to sand properly there. So yeah, better just use your X-Acto knife, and remember what I always advise: you can always gently smooth with just a little bit of alcohol. In my case, I'm going to use the texture sponge to make sure that it's nicely textured all over the place. And then I will take a little sausage I made out of the black clay. That's about, I don't know, almost 1 centimeter, like 8 millimeters thick, and I cut slices from it. And then I place my jump rings always with the closing in, and then I'm placing those little slices of sausage on top of that. I make sure that they are well stuck in there. Make sure again then that I have a good opening. Be very careful. I remember when I was years ago, when I started doing this kind of stuff, in the beginning I wasn't careful where I was placing my jump rings, and a lot of times I wouldn't leave enough room to actually be able to even stick a wire through that opening. So yeah, I messed up at the time a lot of pieces. But anyway, so be careful. Put the jump ring always about 1/3 inside and leave like 2/3 of the jump ring sticking out. Then after you have pressed real good those slices of sausage, now we can start and put some color on the back. Now here I'm going to use the Opal Magic, and this is the Turquoise Satin on the middle. I'm going to kind of mirror what's happening on the front in a way, because I'm placing the Turquoise Satin in the middle, and then I'm going to add a little bit of the Mystic Turquoise to make that gradient, you know. And then I'll take the Amethyst Magic to continue the gradient, and then at the very end I will place the blue velvet. But I'm not going to stop there. I will actually dab a little bit of vintage silk, also from the Opal Magic line, and I'm not using the metallic, because you can use like the white gold, the way that you saw me using on those pendants, but that would be a little bit too harsh and it will stick out too much. These are very delicate colors, so you don't want something that would make a huge contrast. That's why I suggest you just get the vintage silk that's got some goldish undertones, and just gently dab it on there, and you'll get an effect that looks pretty much like I don't know, like a galaxy, like a nebula, starry sky. That's why I call this necklace the Princess of Darkness, because it looks like the night sky if you look at it from a place that has very pure air. Then I'm going to place a little slice of my signature cane, and you know, my signature cane is very tiny, because I don't think that I need something humongous. I just need something to show that I made it, you know. But you see, it's very tiny and discreet. and then I will be baking this. Now here again, very careful, do not bake this unsupported, by no means. First though, I'm going to place a little bit of that vintage silk on the front again, and as I said, this will not stay like this. I'm just creating the background for the final waxing. Okay, so I'm just dabbing a little bit of that vintage silk. If you leave it like this, I mean, you can leave it like this, but there will be a little bit of a smudged look, and you don't want that to happen. See, it is a little bit of a smudged look, and that is because of the colors that I used on the background. But here I'm showing you the 2 weak spots that would be on this specific mold because of the way the creases in the flourish mold are. So I will show you how to bake at this point. I'm taking my baking blank and I will gently wrap my necklace in a paper towel so that it wouldn't stick to the baking blank and get all shiny and stuff, but I want it to sit on that baking blank, and I will prop it in the front so it wouldn't slide. You do not want to leave it unsupported for baking. Now we are almost done. First you want to do a little bit of buffing on that front and on the back as well. The front will get a little bit more wax once we are done putting in the findings, but you can see what I was telling you about the back, the beautiful look of starry nebula or something. It looks just gorgeous. Yeah, you can do a piece just with that, just with the sponge texture and the waxes, and it will still look beautiful. And remember, I showed you that you can actually do stuff like that with just resin on top and it looks fabulous. But anyway, yeah, no, I don't have enough light to show you properly. Anyway, let's get on to put on the findings. So first I'm going to measure my chain. Remember that I always like to double the chain, and I will measure it, double it, and then I will deduct to about 2 inches to make room for the beads on wrapped loops. Now I have to tell you something. Unfortunately, I realized I was completely out of 22 gauge gunmetal wire or black wire. The only thing that I still have is some 24 gauge, and that is way too thin for this kind of stuff. So I will be showing you how to do this, but then once I manage to get 22 gauge wire, I will redo the findings on this. Anyway, so you see, I cut my chain in two, and then I will simply attach. I'm going to use some little hematite beads I have, that I think that the way that the hematite shines should match just beautifully this necklace. And that is what I will be using to put the chain ends together and you know, attach them on one end to on one side to a lobster clasp, and on the other side to one of those jumbo rings. And yes, on these ones I did have gunmetal, but yeah, as I said, those loops don't look that good because the wire is way too thin for something like this. I still wanted to show you how it looks once it is all put together. So just simply pull the chain through the jump ring and then attach the ends of the chain, making a wrapped loop, and then attach the hematite bead. I'm telling you, it's a pain to try and make wrapped loops with a wire that is so thin. I mean, it's unreal. It's much harder than trying to do this with a thick wire. Believe me, it's much harder to control practically. So anyway, yeah, I'll put the hematite bead with 2 little bead caps, and then simply attach on, you see on the other end I attached the jumbo jump ring, and on this end I will attach the lobster clasp after already forming my wrapped loop. That again, I think they look hilarious. I'm sorry, I'm laughing at myself, but that's the best I can do with a 24 gauge wire. I mean, yeah, but this is how you do a wrap loop. If I ever show it to you, if I ever stay in the camera, I think I was just so frustrated with the with the wire I had that I was just, believe me, during all this process I was heavily cussing in Romanian. But anyway, so once you do those, then you have your beautiful necklace all together, and you can wear it wherever you want. I mean, I know it looks a little bit flashy, but hey, that's the fashion. I mean, it can be a cosplay thing, but I think that it would look beautiful at a party with a black dress, or something that would be strapless, or anyway. So before finishing anything, you want to put another layer just of the Amethyst Magic and Mystic Turquoise and blend them nicely in that gradient area, and then let the necklace sit for about 20 minutes to half an hour, and then simply buff it with the soft cotton cloth. And remember, I told you I'm using this specific cloth. It's a it's almost like a chamois, and you can find that in the buffing session on my Amazon influencer store, and of course you'll find all the links in the video description. So enjoy making this beautiful Princess of Darkness necklace. Happy claying!